Ja. Ja, då så, hörni. Eh, Magnus Hedenmark här. Välkomna till dagens webbinar från Nordisk bioplastförening. Och jag som pratar heter Magnus Hedenmark. Jag ska vara moderator idag. Och jag är alltså ordförande i Nordisk bioplastförening sedan 3 år tillbaka. Men eftersom vi har en engelsktalande föreläsare här idag så tänkte jag, för att vara lite artig då, så tänkte jag gå över till engelska. Jag hoppas att ni inte har någonting emot det. So I will say welcome everybody to Nordic Bioplastic Association, the webinar. And the today theme is composting, and that's very interesting because when we talk about composting, there is a system. We are not only talking about materials as such, because to make the whole product cycle working all the way out, we need the right equipment around it. So when we're talking about materials and so on, Afsaneh will learn us about that very much. And then we have Patrik afterwards, who is an entrepreneur, and we will more talk about the machinery, about industrial composting, etc. And I would say I realize I have a background as not only ecotoxicologist, I'm also a biologist, and I realize that there's a lot of ignorance around composting among standardizing people and regulators, etc. I think it's very important that we learn everybody about how the microflora works. It has a great potential. So this is a very big start of doing something about it. So I will not talk so much more than that. I will let you, Afsaneh, to talk about materials and so on. So the floor or the screen is yours, Afsaneh. Welcome.
Thank you. So I first try to share my screen.
Sorry, may I say so? I forgot something before. We have a kind. When you have questions, you write down in the chat. I will be the one who read your question and put them to the presentators later on. Okay, sorry.
No problem. So can you see my screen in presentation mode?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. So good
Sorry.
morning.
Sorry, Afsaneh. It seems to only show the preview screen currently.
Okay. Now better?
Yeah, now it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, everyone from my side, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to present the deliverables of Compostable by Design platform. So I work for BSF in the biopolymer department, but today I'm here on behalf of the platform as the chair of the platform to talk about all the interesting topics that we jointly work on in our foundation. So who we are actually as Compostable by Design platform. We are a cross-value chain initiative promoting collaboration and innovation, not only in compostable packaging and products, but also in associated bio-waste treatment technologies and processes. So we have been formed 2 years ago, exactly actually October 2023. So we are celebrating our second anniversary. And our founding belief was that suitable compostable applications can contribute to circular economy by promoting bio-waste recycling via boosting the collection rate of bio-waste and also minimize the plastic contamination in the bio-waste stream. So we have put ourselves a vision, a future where appropriate compostable packaging and products are widely accepted and effectively recycled at bio-waste facilities across Europe. And this way they can contribute to the circular economy aspirations of the European continent. So when we were discussing 2 years ago and brainstorming what do we really want to change, we have defined as a starting point certain elements that we believe can catalyze change. First is to talk about a proper framework to guide which applications are actually suitable to be compostable. And in this suitable framework, we need to then provide clear labeling and communication practices for these specific products to make sure that they end up where they need to end up in the bio-waste stream and eventually in the composting facilities. We need to work on suggesting a real-world testing that can boost bio-waste recyclers' confidence that compostable products and packaging can properly biodegrade and convert to compost. And in understanding how we can increase this trust, of course, we need to really understand what are the really different bio-waste recycling infrastructures that exist in Europe. So that's also one element that we are working on. In addition, we would like to explore innovation in processes that can help compostable products to work in as many bio-waste recycling facilities as possible. And in order to help this transition and this mechanism to work, we would like to also suggest a financial mechanism via an extended producer responsibility fees that can then be applied for packaging and products that are compostable. So with that in mind, we have had 2 years to work on different deliverables in different work streams that we have had in our foundation. And by end of this year, we will have 4 different deliverables that we will bring to the outer community to basically provide guidance and also education about compostable products and composting in general, as Magnus correctly said. So it's not only about the products, but also really understanding the process. So as a starting point, we have very much focused on industrial composting in our deliverables, because this is the technology that is, let's say, very much in focus to deliver the best bio-waste recycling. But in the next steps, we will also look into anaerobic digestion, because we recognize that anaerobic digestion is also becoming quite important regarding the biogas discussions. And also we will cover in the next deliverables also home composting, because we acknowledge that that also has a small place in the bio-waste recycling and bio-waste treatment. So today, all the discussions that I have, it's very much focused on industrial composting. So the first deliverable that I would like to mention, let's say very briefly, is about a framework and best practice guidance for field testing compostable products and packaging. So this framework document is a very technical document that has been prepared by our sponsors and stakeholders that are all involved in the everyday practice of composting in industrial composting facilities. So the document covers standards and product certification, describes and details different composting processes. The most very important aspect is talking about compost quality and how different composting processes can have impact on the final compost quality. Then there are discussions about field testing guidelines, and also talking about the existing field testing protocols that are out there, for example, CHIC or CRE field testing protocols that are there since many years. So why have we actually looked at this document or prepared this document? Is that we recognize that once we do a lab testing, if we look at biodegradation and disintegration of compostable product and packaging in a lab environment, but in order to increase the real world aspects, field testing could be a complementary aspect that can be added to the lab testing. So basically, we are not suggesting that field testing can alone replace lab testing, because we believe that lab testing is still an important aspect to be carried out because of the ecotox aspects that are in detailed studies studied in a lab testing environment, and also the full biodegradation aspects that are very much studied in the lab environment. But with that, with a real world disintegration testing, we can basically complement the lab testing that can be carried out. And this way, it really helps the producers of these products to understand how these items are behaving in the real industrial composting environment. And also another aspect is really this acknowledgement and understanding from the industry that actually variable composting conditions can have different impacts on the biodegradation of the products. So another deliverable that we have actually launched openly to the public last week is compostable by design guideline. So you can see on the right top side a QR code that you can also scan that takes you directly to our website, and you can download this design guideline. So this design guideline is very much addressed or trying to help the product designers. This version is very much focused on industrial composting, or if there is anaerobic digestion involved, it's always followed by industrial composting. So in the design guideline, we have a review of the current legislation framework and the bio-waste recycling infrastructure in Europe. We talk about key criteria and a decision tree for guidance when compostable products make sense. And once that it's defined that a product makes sense to be compostable, then there is guidance on what kind of components, additives, coatings, inks could be used in order to ensure the certification at the end of the design. And at the end of the document, we have also some best practice examples that are already existing on the market, and also guiding what are the best practices in communication and labeling. So just looking a little bit into the document, what is the essence there? is when does designing a compostable item make sense? Of course, the top most important aspect that we should always have in mind is that items that are tainted with hazardous substances or non-compostable contamination are no-go at all to be considered for bio-waste recycling, because they will disturb the bio-waste treatment, let's say, flora and the mechanism. So this is the top line that should be considered before starting to ask oneself these further questions. So these other aspects that one starts asking, it is basically always having these two aspects in mind. So one is about the increasing the bio-waste recycling collection, and the other aspect is keeping the contamination in bio-waste low. So is this item really food soil? Is it bringing any other bio-waste into the bio-waste facilities? Is it helping diversion of bio-waste from landfilling and incineration? Is this item a common contamination in the bio-waste stream? Is this item currently recyclable in other material recycling stream? And is this item perhaps a good solution when one has a closed loop system, for example, in concerts or big stadiums, when there is only perhaps one collection system for all different types of material? So based on this, there is a nice decision tree that can basically give guidance. When does it make sense to make a product compostable? When does it make sense to then basically consider design for recycling? And actually, there are a couple of instances that could make sense to make a product with a dual end of life, make it recyclable and compostable. So the design guideline and the decision tree guides the designers in making the right choice. So here just a snapshot of some of the best practice examples. As you can see on the top two lines are basically covering the items that are at the moment mandated to be compostable under the packaging and packaging waste regulation. So these are the fruit stickers, the tea bags, coffee pads, and the soft after use items. So we have tested our decision tree, and definitely they come 100% as make it compostable. But beside that, there are also other examples like rigid coffee capsules, like lightweight carrier bags, or when one talks about other products, for example, plant pots, twines, and clips, that definitely make sense to be compostable, because they are very much bringing the, or they are many times a contamination in the green waste stream. So beside these different key criteria that the designers need to have in mind to check if product makes sense to be compostable, there are other key considerations that one has to keep in mind. One is the legislation, and the other aspect is the local recycling infrastructure that is existing in a geography. So it's important to always check the local laws, if composting items, for example, are allowed to be collected with the bio waste, and also important to consider what is not only the current but also the future infrastructure for both bio waste and recycling materials. I'll give you an example. For example, in Germany at the moment, the coffee pots are not allowed to be collected in the bio waste stream, but the producer of this material are making a lot of efforts to make sure that they are collected in the recycling bin, and it's really trying to recycle them. So in a country like Germany, perhaps at this moment in time, the best path forward is to make these items recyclable. On the other hand, we have a country like Italy, with for years, compostable coffee capsules are accepted and very much appreciated by the bio-waste industry. And on the other side, there is no future for recycling of this material. So in Italy, the action moving forward at this moment in time makes sense to make these products certified compostable. Another aspect, of course, is the labeling and communication. So as you all are aware, we very much need to really talk about certification, certified compostable products with a proper labeling on the item to guide the consumers where these products need to end up. And also the fact that putting a term biodegradable should by all means be avoided on the item. So moving on to our other deliverable that we are working on is the topic of the extended producer responsibility, or EPR. And basically, the idea here is to outline a principle for EPR rules for compostable products and items. As you know, given the packaging and packaging waste regulation and also the circular economy act that is coming in Europe, the topic of EPR is becoming extremely important, not only for packaging, but also for other items like textiles and other furniture and so on. And in this situation, we see that actually promoting EPR also for compostables makes really much sense, but also defining a right framework where the EPR fees collected are going to the right organizations, meaning to composters, to make sure that they are reimbursed for the taking of this material. So basically, as I said, the opportunities that Article 9 in Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation is promoting certain products in Europe to be compostable. And at the same time, the EPR discussions are coming up. So for example, in the previous version of Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive, coffee capsules and coffee pods were not considered packaging, so they did not have to pay for EPR fees. But in the new regulation, they are considered packaging, the same as tea bags and the fruit stickers and the bags, so the carrier bags. Therefore, in this essence, defining EPR fees very much makes sense. So in this document, basically, we are trying to define how could such an EPR fee look like for compostable, and also acknowledging the best practices, for example, existing in Italy with BioRepack. So consulting very much the organization of BioRepack in Italy, but also discussing with organizations like EXPRA that has many years of experience in working on EPR fees for other packaging items to make sure the suggestions that we are putting forward make sense and are best practice in the industry. So with that, I would like to come to the end of my presentation. I only had 20 minutes, so I could not go into too much details. But just before I stop, I want to thank the whole team of Compostable by Design platform. So we have a board, but we have also a steering committee very much balanced on different parts of the value chain to make sure that the decision and the roadmap that we define ourselves is very much balanced throughout the value chain. And we have so far 45 members coming from across the value chain of compostable products. So not only resin producers, but we have film and paper manufacturers, we have retailers and brands, we have very active bio-waste recycling associations that are very much contributing to all the discussions. And we have also the certification bodies and testing labs, institutes and universities that are part of the initiative. So if you're interested to learn more about our deliverables or discuss how you can be part of this journey with us, here is our contact that you can get in touch. So thanks for your attention, and I guess we will address your questions after Patrik's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Afsaneh, for a very interesting presentation. I think it clarified very much for many of us, actually. And I have also got some questions from the audience, and some of them I will take afterwards, because we will have a broader discussion with both Patrik and you, but some question we will give to you directly anyhow. And you mentioned anaerobic process. I think we are focusing very much on biogas production in Sweden, and my experience is that people are really hesitating about, will all this bioplastic disturb this anaerobic process and so on? Do we have to choose between two evils here, or what do we do? But as you mentioned here, that you see this a two-step thing, that first you do the anaerobic process, and afterwards you have the aerobic digestion. Do you have some more comments to that? I think people are really a bit scared about letting the especially the bioplastics in.
Yeah, thanks, Magnus, for the question. Yeah, I think it's quite important to really acknowledge that different countries have different processes for treating the bio waste. So this is something that, of course, we cannot ignore. And there are countries like Sweden, like UK, that have very much anaerobic digestion, maybe focus very much on wet anaerobic digestion. There are other countries that are very much focused on industrial composting, in-vessel composting, like Italy. And there are others like Germany that have combination of both. So they have basically anaerobic digestion that is then followed up by in-vessel composting. And we need to basically acknowledge that there are different processes, and basically the products need to function. Yeah. So as I said, for the first term, the first 2 years, we have very much focused on industrial composting, so aerobic process, but we are also gearing up to look at anaerobic digestion. So if there is only anaerobic digestion, are there any technologies, pre-treatment facilities that can be installed beforehand that can perhaps support the process of anaerobic digestion? But this is, I think, when one starts looking at anaerobic digestion, there are devils is in the details. So it's not only one process. There are actually quite a lot of different processes: wet anaerobic digestion, dry, plug flow, thermophilic, mesophilic. So we really need to then look into all these different processes and also look at the space of innovation. As I said, for example, we have member Celtic Bioenergies that has a process to be installed before an anaerobic digestion to make a slurry that can basically handle all the compostable products as well. So these are the things that we would like to look at in the next years.
Okay. I will. There are many more questions, but I take them after Patrik's presentation. But one question here, I don't know, it was a misunderstanding, but I got the question about in which ways can food residues be negative for composting? I don't know if that.
No, I think perhaps that was a misunderstanding. So what I meant is, let's say we get a lot of questions from sometimes material designers or brands to make certain products that are, for example, a packaging for hazardous material or a packaging for detergents to be compostable. And that was basically giving the guidance that when looking at the space of compostable packaging and products, we have to really make sure that the content of the package has affinity with the bio-waste recycling and doesn't have any contaminants that are toxic for the system. But in the sense of food residuals, there is no negative effect on composting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I think I have to go further on. And now I will switch over to Swedish for a while, if you excuse me. Så nu ska vi låta Patrik prata. Och Patrik kommer in på den praktiska delen och han som säkert är entreprenör inom det här området. Så jag gör så här, jag låter dig prata här nu Patrik i 20 minuter, så tar vi en diskussion efteråt. Varsågod Patrik.
Tack så mycket. Ser ni min presentation?
Jajamän.
Ja, strålande. Patrik Johansson heter jag och jag driver en liten grupp av bolag som heter Kompat, där Solserv ingår. Där vi har sysslat med industriell kompostering från en liten anläggning till en restaurang, kontorslandskap, hotell liknande upp till stora facilities med pretreatment-utrustning och liknande. Jag brukar visa den här bilden först. Så här ser det ut på vår jordklot med blåa fina hav, gröna fält, vackra blommor och träd. Tyvärr är det detta framtiden vi går till mötes med utarmade åkermarker, packade åkermarker så inte vatten träcker igenom. Och här behöver vi göra någonting med att regenerera våra åkermarker. Och med hjälp av kompostering och kompostmassa, den gödseln, organiska gödseln därifrån, så kan vi hjälpa till med att förhindra detta. Och vi levererar då komposteringslösningar, cirkulära lösningar. Och som jag sa så är det en liten grupp av bolag. Jag var switcha igenom det här lite grann. Vi både tillverkar kompostmaskiner, förpackningsmaskiner och liknande och förpackningar och kompostmaskiner och eftermarknad därtill. Och vi levererar kundunika cirkulära kompletta lösningar för att kompostera. Det kan vara matavfall, det kan vara annars organiskt avfall, all typ av organiskt avfall, förpackningar och liknande. Och vi tillverkar de här lösningarna i Sverige som vi är väldigt stolta över. Tittar vi då på produkterna med kompostering, så på 24 timmar så bryter vi ner mellan 80 och 95% utav det organiska materialet. Beror lite grann på om det är en tomat, gurka och liknande, då blir det inte mycket kvar. Har vi förpackningar eller kött och liknande så blir det lite mer kvar. Men det blir cirka 15-20% kvar. Vi har då lösningar från 5 kilo till 1500 kilo per dygn. Och det kan stå på ett kontor, det kan stå på Radisson Blu Hotel, det kan stå på Volvo Pentas huvudkontor. Eller så kan det då finnas på en festival och liknande där man då också har komposterbara produkter. Men vi kan också leverera stora facilities, stora anläggningar, och det har levererat väldigt många sådana båtar i Asien. Och där har vi också pre-treatment-utrustning därtill som jag går igenom lite senare. Och all utrustning därtill. Och det är en 24 timmars komposteringsprocess. Vi torkar inte bara ut matavfallet utan vi bryter verkligen ner det. Och det gör vi med hjälp av en väldigt effektiv mikroorganism som trivs i den här miljön. Oftast hög salthalt med matavfall, fuktighet, temperatur och värme. Våra mikroorganismer de trivs i den här temperaturen där många andra mikroorganismer dör över 40 grader. Men vi ligger på ungefär 55 grader i temperatur hela tiden. Vi har också en hygienisering så vi kan gå upp i mer än 70 grader mer än i 60 minuter. Så vi fullföljer då de europeiska reglerna vad gäller när man har animaliska biprodukter. Och tittar man på recyclingtriangeln eller avfallstrappan eller liknande så oftast är det bäst att reducera på sajten där man genererar avfallet så man inte genererar transporter. Sen tror jag att vi behöver många olika lösningar för vårt avfall idag. Det kan vara biogas, det kan vara kompostering. Vi kanske ska bränna mindre av vårt avfall idag utan vi kan tillverka produkter. Jag tycker om när man kan göra produkter utav ett waste. Men tyvärr idag så fokuserar vi väldigt mycket på biogas som absolut är bra. Men vi transporterar så långa sträckor så det blir mer en miljöpåverkan med transporterna än det vi får ut från andra änden i form av biogasen. Jag har exempel som är skrämmande men jag vill inte ta upp dem just nu. Men det är väldigt långa sträckor vi transporterar. Och när man berättar det för människor så kommer det som en nyhet. Till och med myndigheter och liknande som inte förstod att det händer idag. Det är en rätt så stor del som är komposterbar. Jag brukar säga att det är mellan 45-55% som är komposterbart. Man kan kompostera olika pappersprodukter, torkpapper, servetter, förpackningar och liknande. Vi har ansvar gentemot vår miljö, våra barn och framtiden. Och avfallskostnader blir inte billigare i framtiden. Och sen en fördel är också att det tar bort en dålig lukt. Har man en soptunna på sommaren som står en dag med matavfall så luktar det inte så där väldigt gott. Och det går väldigt snabbt som jag sa, från det att man stoppar i matavfallet och förpackningar. En servett försvinner på 12-14 timmar, liksom räkor med skal och liknande. Har man då bioplast och liknande som ska gå igenom lite senare så tar det lite längre tid. Många av våra kunder är ute efter en cirkulär lösning. Då de också kan använda kompostmassan och organiska gödseln för att odla med. Vi har många bra exempel där man odlar själv, kanske på taket, på ett hotell. Och sen använder man grönsakerna i matlagningen sen. Eller så skickar man till någon annan organisk odling som använder där man köper tillbaka produkterna. Man kanske delar ut den här kompostmassan till kunder som checkar ut. Och vi träffar in på många av FNs miljömål med vår lösning. Och det svarta guldet som jag kallar det. Jag har varit och presenterat och sålt in våra lösningar. Både olika länder i Europa, Asien, USA, Mellanöstern. I USA när man är i Texas så tänker man kanske inte så där mycket på de här bitarna. Men jag brukar säga det att ni har ett black gold i Texas, men detta är ett annat black gold. Där ni har ett råmaterial så istället för att det går ut på landfill och creating methane gas så kan ni kompostera det och så får ni ett annat black gold. Och den blir väldigt stark den här produkten. Den blir i kvävehalt i form av hönsgödsel. Och hur fungerar processen? Vi har lufttillförsel hela tiden så vi blandar i processen tillsammans med matavfallet, förpackningarna och mikroorganismerna. Det blir en viss reaktion så att vi får en värmeutvinning i processen precis som när man komposterar ute på backen hemma. Men när man då häller i matavfall så skjuter vi till lite värme så att vi kommer upp på 55 grader så snabbt som möjligt. Som vi ligger på termofila fasen av komposteringsprocessen. Det krävs att det är fuktigt. Oftast har man fuktighet när man har frukt och grönsaker och liknande. Gammal mjölk och liknande. Jag brukar säga det att häll inte ut en halv liter mjölk om den är gammal. Häller ni i kompostmaskinen så får ni också den näringen i massan. Och sen mikroorganismer som är det viktigaste. Och vad kan man kompostera? Jag brukar säga att kompostmaskinen fungerar precis som din mage. Du kan ju äta en servett, du kan äta en förpackning som är komposterbar. Det är kanske inte så gott, men det fungerar i processen. Likadant är det i kompostmaskinen. Är det väldigt stora ben så tar det väldigt lång tid. Men vi har till och med lagt i en hel spädgris i maskinen. Och efter 24 timmar så är det skallbenet och de största benen som kommer ut. Allt annat är nedbrutet. Och vi har gjort en hel del tester genom åren utav förpackningar och liknande. Om man tittar på pappersförpackningar och liknande servetter så är det inga större konstigheter. Tittar man på PLA och bioplastprodukter så är det inte heller några större konstigheter. Det man bör göra är att man maler dem då i mindre bitar för att det lättare ska kunna bryta ner det. PLA kräver en hög temperatur för att det då ska brytas ner. Och den temperaturen på 55 grader eller däröver gör att det går väldigt snabbt att bryta ner det. Och vi har både gjort mycket tester, men vi har kunder som använder detta idag. Vi har en stor kund i Danmark som gick ifrån reusable ölglas till komposterbara PLA-ölglas. Och målet är att de ska ha 0 plast till nästa år och kompostera allting i 2 stora anläggningar från oss. Ni ser lite bilderna där att det är paddlar som blandar runt massan. Det är ingen kvarn i själva anläggningen utan den har man externt utanför. Det blandar runt det där med mikroorganismer och fuktighet och liknande och sen går det väldigt snabbt från det att man stoppar i det. Processen med PLA, jag brukar säga att det tar mellan 3 och 6 dagar. Men den bästa lösningen det är ju liksom du har alla optimala förutsättningar. Du har en hög temperatur, minst 55 grader. Du har fuktighet. Du har rätt mikroorganismer. Du lägger till annat organiskt material som är då utav high carbon. Det kan vara löv, det kan vara pappersprodukter och liknande. Du kan lägga in andra aktivator som vi också testat där det går väldigt mycket snabbare också. Som jag sa innan så ska man mala ner produkterna så att det går snabbare. Och sen så lufttillförseln är väldigt viktig. Så att det går väldigt snabbt och bryta ner det tillsammans med matavfallet. Men man kan också ha en hög procentdel utav då PLA och pappersprodukter. Och vi har lösningar från då 5 kilo per dygn och vidare uppåt så det kan stå på den minsta verksamheten. Vi har mycket skolor som använder de här maskinerna och lösningarna och använder också i utbildningssyfte. Jag brukar säga att det är ett väldigt spektra av kunder där ute. Alla som producerar, levererar, erbjuder mat på något slags vis. Och många gånger så har de ju då komposterbara emballageprodukter, både utav form av bioplaster och andra pappersprodukter. Och tittar vi på större anläggningar från då 800 kilo till 1,5 ton så har vi den stora kunden i Danmark som då ibland serverar 50-60 000 öl på sina event. Då kan man få dem mer kundanpassade med pre-treatment-utrustning till innan. Man kan få kvarn, man kan få plastseparator, man har väldigt mycket annan fossila plaster så kan man separera detta. Squeezer för att pressa ut vätska från en hög kapacitet utav maskinen. Och tittar man på större facilities så är det levererat väldigt många båtar i Asien, framförallt i Kina, där man komposterar väldigt mycket. Och det kan vara en 20-tonsanläggning, en 60-tonsanläggning eller en 100-tonsanläggning. Vi levererar nu tillsammans med vårt systerbolag i Hongkong och Dubai en stor anläggning till den miljövänliga staden i Saudiarabien. Neom som säkert många har hört talas om. Och där odlar de väldigt mycket också som de använder och säljer och använder i den här staden. Och vi har också olika lösningar för att ta fram olika gödselprodukter. Det kan vara pellets där vi blandar biokol i, kan man blanda in andra mineral och liknande. För det är viktigt att man inte bara liksom komposterar och sen kanske man slänger den här outputen som kommer. För att, som jag sa, så är det ett black gold. Man ska inte ha nytta av den, man ska använda den. Och vi träffar in på många av FNs miljömål som jag har pratat om tidigare. Jag har varit i många FN-projekt både i Sydsudan, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, där vi kan kompostera också mänsklig output. Och det som driver mig där, det är att varje dag så dör det 1000 barn diarréer på grund av att dricksvattnet är kontaminerat med avföringen. Och kan vi vara med och rädda några liv med hjälp av kompostering av det, ta bort kolera och salmonellabakterier, så tycker jag det är positivt. Vi är mycket i Ukraina, en hel del nu också, där de också tittar på att ta hand om sitt avfall fastän att de har fullt krig. Lite referenskunder som vi har, finns det väldigt många runt om världen, både kända och mindre kända. Men det är många som vill ha en cirkulär lösning, som inte vill generera transport av deras matavfall och annat organiskt avfall. Där har ni mina uppgifter om det är någonting ni undrar över, om ni vill ta kontakt med oss eller liknande. Tackar så mycket.
Ja, men stort tack, Patrik. And now I will switch over to English so I can involve even Afsaneh in the questions and discussions, etc. I have a lot of discussions to take care of, but what we can state from your presentation here is when people normally speak about circular economy, I can see they have a kind of idea that's only about mechanical recycling, but they often forgot that circular economy is much bigger than that. The biological process is half of the circular economy. Do you want to comment about that? That is a kind of misunderstandings about etc. What do you say, Afsaneh?
Yeah, I totally agree with your evaluation, Magnus, but I think if we all remember the Ellen MacArthur butterfly circular economy diagram, you have on one side the technical cycle, which talks about mechanical or other chemical recycling routes. But then on the other side, you have the biological loop, and basically bringing back the nutrients back to the nature and back to soil to keep to make sure we keep the healthy soil. Yeah. So I think the story with compostable products and packaging is very much addressing the nutrient loop of circular economy. And as I said, it's not really either or. In many cases, we are starting to move to and. So if you have, for example, a package that is fully food soiled to the point that it cannot be properly recycled in the material technical loop, then it really makes sense to send it to composting. But if a product is compostable and it's empty, that doesn't mean that it cannot go to material recycling. So there is in that space also a lot of innovation, for example, in the space of paper packaging, that you can still, if the package is totally empty and there is no food contamination, you can still send it to paper mills for paper recycling. So it's I think the story is moving away from and or and very much to both end of life options.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a question here to Patrik. Normally, when we are talking about composting plastics or composting materials, I got objection that people say, oh, but we have no industrial composting infrastructure in Sweden at all. But obviously, it doesn't have to be big machinery for that. You have proven that it's work, because your machinery is actually about industrial composting that can manage the biggest bioplastic category, the PLA, as I understand. Is that correct, Patrik?
Yes. And as I said, we have both small solution that can be at Pressbyrån, a small solution, but we also have bigger industrial solution where we can compost bigger amount of PLA and other products.
So that gives us kind of answer on the question. We don't need to start with big investment industrial composting before we do anything about the composting, actually. And another kind of, what we say, misunderstanding or myth is that, as Afsaneh mentioned, that normally people have the idea that something is biodegradable or not. It's a kind of black or white, but it's more or less different kind of levels of composting. You can, when you regulate it with temperature, timing, and move around, and the presence of organic waste, I suppose. I don't. If you want to have a kind of comment, first you, Patrik, and then Afsaneh.
Yeah, the best solution is if you mix food waste and everything together. And if we look at recycling, I think today I have been at many waste waste community waste companies, organization, and I see how it's working there. We don't recycle so very much, but sorry, the question, could you repeat it again, because was not understand 100%.
Okay, and yeah, actually enough. I have another important question here. Actually, it's about the composting and efficiency of energy. So I think that question is very much to you, Patrik. How is about the energy demand or electricity demand, and what do you do with your composting? Where does it delivers in the end? Who get it?
Yeah. About energy, I got a lot of questions about that. Yes, it goes on electricity. We need to have some heat when we put in cold food waste, and the motor, when it's turning around, we need to have some electricity, so it takes some energy. But in the process, we generate also lots of heat. So we're just adding it when it's needed, and it's not that much. And it's hard to get something reduced 90% in 24 hours without any electricity. So I think that we need to compare this one with all the transport and all other things we are doing. And you can also take the warm heat coming out from machine, and you can use this one when you're heating up in the buildings and so on. Yeah. And the compost mass, I always tell the customer the best is if they use it in their own garden, if they have a circular solution. Otherwise, we have a system, so we come and pick this up, and then we produce other organic fertilizer, nutrition sticks, and pellets and similar.
Okay, great. And I also understand that that we have to be a little bit more distinct when we are communicating compostable than only saying telling that something is biodegradable. That's important, because we have to build up trust for that compostable seriously can work, and not mix it with unserious claim. So do you? Maybe that's a question to you, Afsaneh. There are different levels of certifications, as I understand, for what kind of process. Do you know? Can you say something about that? The different kind of certification levels that exist.
Yeah, I think if you want to bring a product on the market, that is compostable. Basically, the final article need to be certified by a third party certification organization, for example, TÜV Austria or Dinsertco. Over many years, they have quite a lot of experience in this space. And the reason behind is to really, let's say, make sure that whatever is claimed to be compostable, it is really functional. So the certification schemes are based on existing standards. For example, for industrial composting in Europe, there is the existing standard EN 13432, which the certification scheme is based on, to basically make sure the justification. Yeah, so this is quite an important aspect, and that very, very much also advocate for that the certification is quite an important aspect. And we see the negative side effects when certification not enforced in other geographies where a lot of fake material are put on the market. And then basically the whole compostable products and packaging sector is blamed for this. So that's why we very much advocate for certification by third party as well.
Yeah, and I got another question here from Bjarne. Actually, he's very involved in bioplastic, but he say that the cost for certification is a big hinder for using compostable. And he asks, how can this be simplified and made cheaper? Do you have any ideas?
Well, we have, for example, OWS in our sponsors group, and I know that they are coming up with some new ways to maybe make this process cheaper and faster. Sorry, I'm not really in that space to be able to claim something, but best is to perhaps talk to, for example, OWS, because I think they have quite some new ideas in that space how to make this faster and cheaper.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you practice certifying, it's when it becomes cheaper when you have when you share the costs for and test many items together or at the same time or something. And I expect the certification costs will decrease in future when you get volumes on this kind of stuff actually. But I can sure the frustration is big when you claim that, oh, I come with something good that will save the world and I do have to pay more than everybody else. Of course I can understand the issue and so on. But I also noticed from your presentation that we are normally talking, when we're talking about plastics and things like that, we're talking about the problems as microplastics or climate change. But we also forgot something to understand, that composting can actually contribute to other areas more than that, because we talk about soil health. It's a very important issue that is seldom mentioned, and we also have problems with food, taking care of all these mountains of food waste. So composting can solve a lot of issues more than only the plastic issue itself.
Yeah, very, very much true. So if you look at the Zero Waste Europe report that was published in November last year about the status of bio-waste recycling in different European countries, you see that we are still actually less recycling or sending less than 25% of our food residuals or food waste to recycling in bio-waste treatment, and this is causing quite a serious serious carbon emissions for Europe as well. This is an area that can also help when we diverge the food waste from incineration and landfilling to composting and organic recycling. So that aspect is also quite important.
Okay, thank you very much. Time is going quick when we have fun. It's already 11 o'clock. We are supposed to switch off, and I will thank you everybody for being here. But there's actually a question that still I haven't, maybe you can take that a little bit quick from both of you. What about certain issues about pesticides and about that? What about herbicides from vegetables and coffee? Do you know what happens with them when they are contaminating the food residues? Maybe Patrik can have the question. I think you have some kind of answer.
We have done pretty many tests with the Swedish Agriculture University and other organization where we have composted flour and similar coming from other countries than Sweden or Europe, where it's chemical not allowed in Europe, but also chemicals allowed. After the composting, we have reduced a lot, almost 100%. Most of those one. We have also in Morocco done tests with waste from olive oil production with polyphenol, and after composting there are no polyphenol left. Heavy metals, yeah, there is some problem with this one. Sometimes you can bind it in the carbon that you're generating, but there is happening a lot in the composting process.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sorry to say that we have to shut this down, but I will thank you both of you very much for this very great informative presentation, actually. And I will say good luck to both of you, and we will meet each other again. I'm quite certain about that. Thank you, all of you others. Good listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.